Dr. Rebecca Chun stepped into room 312 with the confidence of someone who had performed over 3,000 pediatric surgeries. The Morales family looked up at her with desperate hope, their rosary beads clicking softly in the sterile silence. Mrs. Morales clutched a small statue of the Virgin Mary against her chest. "Doctor, we need more time," Mr. Morales said quietly. "We want to complete our novena to Our Lady before the surgery." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "Mr. Morales, your son has a ruptured appendix. Every hour we delay increases the risk of sepsis and death. Prayer won't remove infected tissue. Please, just one more day," Mrs. Morales whispered, tears streaming down her face. "The Virgin Mary will protect him." "The Virgin Mary is a dead woman who lived 2,000 years ago," Rebecca said sharply. "Your son needs surgery, not superstition. This kind of magical thinking is exactly what kills children." The room fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Mrs. Morales pressed the statue closer to her heart, her face crumbling. Word traveled fast through St. Augustine's tight-knit Catholic community. By Tuesday morning, Rebecca had received 3 requests for different physicians. Mrs. Garcia, whose daughter she had treated for years, avoided eye contact in the hospital corridor. Father Martinez called the chief of staff, expressing concern about patient comfort and religious sensitivity. Rebecca dismissed it all as emotional overreaction. She had saved the Morales boy's life with emergency surgery, hadn't she? The appendix had been removed successfully, infection cleared with antibiotics. Science had prevailed, just as she knew it would. At home that evening, she found her husband David reading bedtime stories to their 80-year-old daughter Emma. The little girl's laughter filled their Victorian house on Spanish Street, a sound that made Rebecca forget the day's tensions. Emma ran to hug her mother, dark curls bouncing. "Mommy, Mrs. Peterson next door lit candles for you today. She said people were being mean." Rebecca glanced at David, who gave her a knowing look. Their elderly Catholic neighbor had always been kind, despite knowing Rebecca's views on religion. 3 weeks later, Rebecca noticed Emma rubbing her temples during breakfast. "My head hurts, Mommy," she said, pushing away her cereal. Rebecca felt her forehead, checking for fever, finding none. "Probably just tired, sweetheart. Early bedtime tonight." But the headaches continued. Emma began stumbling slightly, her balance off during soccer practice. Rebecca scheduled an appointment with her family pediatrician, Dr. Williams, trying to suppress the clinical suspicion growing in her mind. The MRI results arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Rebecca stared at the images on her computer screen, her medical training warring with her maternal heart. The mass in Emma's brainstem was unmistakable, its irregular borders suggesting aggressive growth. She called David immediately. "I need you to meet me at the hospital. Bring Emma." "What's wrong?" Rebecca's voice caught. "Just come, please." Dr. Williams delivered the diagnosis with gentle professionalism. Glioblastoma multiforme, grade 4, the most aggressive brain tumor in children. Emma sat between her parents, confused by their sudden tears, not yet understanding that her world had just shattered into a million pieces. Rebecca threw herself into research with manic determination. Her home office became a war room. Medical journals scattered across every surface, laptop screens glowing with treatment protocols from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Memorial Sloan Kettering. She consulted with the best pediatric neurosurgeons in the country, each conversation confirming what she already knew but refused to accept. "The location makes surgery extremely risky," Dr. Patterson from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia explained during a video call. "Any surgical intervention could leave her paralyzed or in a vegetative state." Rebecca's hands trembled as she took notes. "What about radiation? Chemotherapy?" "Dr. Chun, you know the statistics. With this type of tumor, in this location, we're looking at palliative care, making her comfortable." She hung up and immediately dialed another specialist. There had to be someone, somewhere, with a different answer. David found her at 3 in the morning, still making calls to European research facilities. "Rebecca, you need to sleep." "I need to save our daughter," she snapped. not looking up from her computer screen filled with experimental treatment protocols. Emma's condition deteriorated rapidly. The headaches intensified, requiring stronger pain medication. Her speech began slurring, and she lost coordination in her left hand. Rebecca watched helplessly as her brilliant, vibrant daughter struggled to hold a crayon during art therapy. "Maybe we should consider Father Martinez's offer to visit," David suggested gently one evening as they sat in Emma's hospital room. Their daughter slept fitfully, machines monitoring her declining vital signs. "Absolutely not," Rebecca hissed, though her voice lacked its usual conviction. "I won't have some priest filling her head with false hope. It might bring her comfort. Medicine will bring her comfort. I've arranged a consultation with Dr. Yamamoto in Tokyo. He's pioneering a new targeted therapy." David's face crumbled. "Rebecca, the doctors here have been clear. You're a physician. You know what this means." She turned away, unable to meet his eyes. "I know what giving up means. I won't do it." That night, Rebecca sat alone beside Emma's bed, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall with mechanical precision. For the first time, doubt crept into her scientific certainty. Dr. Yamamoto's experimental treatment failed within 2 weeks. Emma's tumor markers climbed aggressively, and new lesions appeared on her latest scans. Rebecca stared at the images, her medical expertise finally forced to confront what her heart had refused to acknowledge. "I'm sorry, Dr. Chun," her colleague Dr. Harrison said quietly. "We've exhausted all treatment options. It's time to focus on comfort care." Rebecca's legs gave out, and she sank into the chair beside Emma's bed. Her daughter looked so small against the white hospital sheets, her face pale and drawn from weeks of futile treatments. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening in St. Augustine's Catholic community. Mrs. Peterson had quietly spread word about Emma's condition, and despite Rebecca's harsh words months earlier, prayer chains began forming. The Morales family, whose son Rebecca had saved, started a novena specifically for Emma. Even families who had requested different doctors began lighting candles at St. Augustine Cathedral. Father Martinez approached David in the hospital hallway. "The entire parish is praying for Emma. We know Dr. Chen doesn't believe, but love transcends differences." David nodded gratefully, tears in his eyes. Emma's seizures began on a rainy Tuesday morning. Rebecca watched helplessly as her daughter's small body convulsed despite maximum anticonvulsant therapy. The medical team worked efficiently around her, but Rebecca could see the resignation in their eyes. She was no longer the confident surgeon giving orders, but a terrified mother watching her world collapse. "Mom, I'm scared," Emma whispered during a brief moment of clarity, her voice barely audible above the monitors. Rebecca took her daughter's hand, feeling how thin and fragile it had become. "I know, sweetheart. Mommy's here." David entered with red-rimmed eyes. "Dr. Harrison wants to speak with us about hospice care." The word hit Rebecca like a physical blow. Hospice meant giving up. It meant admitting that all her medical knowledge, all her years of training, all her fierce determination meant nothing against this relentless disease. That evening, alone in the hospital chapel she had never intended to enter, Rebecca found herself surrounded by the very symbol she had mocked. Stained glass windows cast colored light across empty pews. At the front, a statue of the Virgin Mary stood with arms outstretched. Rebecca stared at the Virgin Mary statue, remembering her cruel words to Mrs. Morales. The Virgin Mary is a dead woman who lived 2,000 years ago. The memory made her stomach turn with shame. Here she was, months later, having exhausted every medical option, sitting in the same hospital where she had mocked another mother's desperate faith. The chapel was silent except for the distant hum of hospital machinery. Rebecca's hands trembled in her lap as she studied Mary's serene expression. How many mothers had sat in this same spot, pleading for their children's lives? "I don't know how to do this," she whispered to the empty room. "I don't know how to pray. I don't even know if anyone's listening." Her voice cracked as tears finally came. "But if you're real, if there's any chance you can hear me, please don't let my daughter die because of my pride. She's innocent. She doesn't deserve this." Rebecca buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with grief and desperation. For the first time in her adult life, science had failed her completely. She had nowhere left to turn except to the faith she had spent years denying. Emma slipped into a coma at 2:47 a.m. on Friday morning. Rebecca sat beside the bed, holding her daughter's limp hand while machines breathed for her. The neurologist's words echoed in her mind. Her brain function is shutting down. It's only a matter of hours now. David had gone home to shower and change clothes, leaving Rebecca alone with their dying child. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the rhythmic whoosh of the ventilator and the steady beep of heart monitors. Rebecca's chest felt crushed under the weight of helplessness. Every medical intervention had failed. Every specialist had offered the same grim prognosis. Every research paper she had devoured pointed to the same inevitable conclusion. She looked at Emma's peaceful face, so pale against the white pillow. Her daughter's dark curls had fallen out from chemotherapy, and her once bright eyes remained closed behind thin lids. "I'm sorry, baby," Rebecca whispered. "Mommy doesn't know how to fix this." The chapel called to her again. This time, she didn't hesitate. Walking through the empty hospital corridors at 3 in the morning, she made her way back to the small sanctuary where the Virgin Mary waited. Rebecca collapsed to her knees before the Virgin Mary statue, her pride finally shattered. Tears streamed down her face as years of scientific certainty crumbled away. "I was wrong," she sobbed, looking up at Mary's gentle face. "I was so wrong about everything. I mocked you. I hurt people who loved you, and I was too proud to see past my own arrogance." Her voice broke as desperation poured out. "But please, please don't let my daughter pay for my mistakes. She's everything good in this world. She has your kindness, your compassion. If you're real, if you truly love children the way they say you do, please save her." Rebecca pressed her forehead to the cold marble floor. "I'll do anything. I'll apologize to every family I hurt. I'll never mock faith again. Just please let Emma live. Let her grow up and have children of her own. Let her experience all the joy I might have stolen from her." As she prayed, something unexpected happened. A profound peace settled over her, unlike anything she had ever experienced. The crushing weight in her chest began to lift, replaced by a warmth that seemed to radiate from somewhere deep within her soul. Rebecca's phone rang at 6:15 a.m. Dr. Harrison's voice was barely contained excitement. "Dr. Chun, you need to get here immediately. Emma's awake." Rebecca ran through the hospital corridors, her heart pounding with disbelief and hope. She burst into Emma's room to find her daughter sitting up, eyes bright and alert for the first time in weeks. "Mommy," Emma smiled, her voice strong and clear. "I had the most beautiful dream about a lady in blue." Dr. Harrison pulled Rebecca aside, his face a mixture of confusion and wonder. "Her latest scans are completely different. The tumor has shrunk by 70% overnight. The brain swelling is gone. Her neurological function is normal." "That's impossible," Rebecca whispered, though even as she said it, she knew she was witnessing something beyond medical explanation. "I've called in 3 other neurologists. Everyone is baffled. By every measure we understand, Emma should have died hours ago. Instead, she's sitting up asking for pancakes." Rebecca looked at her daughter, who was chatting animatedly with David about her dream of the beautiful lady who had held her hand and told her everything would be all right. 6 months later, Emma's scans showed no trace of cancer. Multiple oncologists confirmed what Rebecca's transformed heart already knew. Her daughter had experienced a complete, medically inexplicable recovery. Rebecca stood before the congregation at St. Augustine Cathedral, her hands trembling as she approached the microphone. The Morales family sat in the front pew, their faces filled with forgiveness rather than judgment. "I owe this community an apology," Rebecca began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I mocked your faith, dismissed your prayers, and caused pain during your most vulnerable moments. I was wrong about the Virgin Mary, wrong about the power of prayer, and wrong about the limits of what's possible." Mrs. Morales wiped away tears as Rebecca continued. "I'm not here to convert or abandon my medical practice, but I've learned that healing comes in many forms and faith deserves respect, not ridicule. Emma, healthy and radiant, smiled from the audience beside David. Rebecca's practice now included chaplain services, and she never again dismissed a family's desire to pray alongside medical treatment. Have you ever witnessed something that science couldn't explain? Share your story in the comments below and let us know if you've experienced moments where the impossible became possible.